Let's have a breather.
Let's have a breather.
Honestly, it really does help. I mean, I usually just start off the interviews quite natural, and which is something I love about my interviews, is that it's really people that I just naturally met throughout my life and the things I do, and it's just like a spark. Sometimes you meet somebody and they tell you what they do, and you're like, yes, let's talk about this, let's come together and create some content. Siobhan, I met you last week at the Christmas market in Pop Brixton.
Yeah.
And you got my attention through your womb tea and your yoni steams. And I think it's really interesting because I used to do that, yoni steam, and I used to love it. It was just, and you just sit there and you breathe, and it was just a beautiful ritual for your vagina. Like, we don't do these things enough. And then when you start talking a little bit about your story and briefly about what you went through, and you were telling me how this is like a story and this is things that you really want to get out there, I was like, yeah, I think it's time to talk about womb health. And yeah, Siobhan, I'd like to introduce you to my audience, and maybe you can take it from there.
My name is Siobhan, and I help people globally with womb health and holistic healing. I have a background in mental health, social care and education, and that's something I used to do more of, but I've moved more into a holistic way of living myself personally, also the way that I deliver my services. So yeah, I go by the name of Free Thyself. I don't like to call it a business because it is my calling and my purpose, but it does have a business element.
Yes.
And my slogan is, there is power in your voice, because through my journey and helping young people and children, and just women in general, and also myself, I really feel that there is power in all of our voices, and for so many reasons it's been suppressed. And I wanted Free Thyself to be what it actually says. And over the years I realised when it first started, it actually was called Free. And it didn't sit right with me, and I heard this voice say to me, Siobhan, I feel like you need another name, or add something on, because free just feels too generic.
Yeah.
So when Free Thyself came, it just felt so freeing. Like, it literally is what it says. And over the years, and I embodied the energy of Free Thyself, I realised that Free Thyself is me.
Yeah.
So this whole time I was like trying to think of the business side of it, in terms of how I'm going to deliver workshops and help the community and help people globally. But I realised I was just freeing myself from trauma, from pain and suffering, and from the strains that's been put on me. I wouldn't say I'm a womb anything. I just went on a journey with my womb. And for me, endometriosis was something that I experienced, and from that, I started to awaken to how powerful natural healing is, and holistic healing. So yeah, I have been a counsellor before I went into this journey. And I used to work in mental health and education and teach a little bit. I was really passionate about being in the mental health industry and, the education system since I was 14, to be honest. So I started really young, and from that journey, I just realised that the system was really restricted, and there's a lot of rules and regulations, and I get it, but it just didn't work for my spirit. I'm a very free spirit, so
yeah.
I just realised along the way that something more is needed, and it was something within my soul that happened during the endometriosis journey. And that was during the time of me being told that I'm infertile.
Is that what endometriosis is about?
Endometriosis, my personal journey, from what I took from it, is you can't plan anything. So regardless of what it actually does say on the NHS or whatever, it's where it can grow in any part of your body. So it can grow on your heart, endometriosis.
Okay.
It can grow, it can come back.
Okay.
So they can remove the endometriosis, which is like inflammation, kind of, I think it's like lumps and stuff like that. But basically, when I was told that I had it, I went for the ultrasound, and I'd never had an ultrasound in my whole life because I've never been pregnant to my awareness. And during that time, I was just in so much shock of how invasive, the nurses were and dismissive they are with certain things. And for someone like myself that's been through sexual trauma, and also at the time I was celibate in a way, I was just like, I'm going through this experience where I need to go for a scan to check if I've got endo, because I couldn't move. I was throwing up. I was on the floor. I was being sick constantly. It basically, from a lot of other women that I've spoken to that have experienced it, or just what I've researched even on YouTube. Because even though there's these symptoms on the NHS, I felt like it wasn't clear. It wasn't. I feel like you can only relate to it so much because it's a personal journey. So you might have endometriosis, but from my experience of it was to do with my own internal stuff, which I'll get into in a bit. And for me, the endometriosis showed me that when I was asking the doctors, what can I do? It was just basically, you're done. And
what done? Like,
when I mean done, it was just like, you're now infertile, accept it. Like, that's what they were throwing at me, constant fear. And at the time, I just turned 30. And this was almost 3 years ago, coming this February. It was all around March that I was being examined and stuff like that. But when I was trying to get the support, they was putting me on this list to wait for the scan. And then when I eventually went for the scan, like I said, I had to drink gallons of water. And they said it might be internal, or it might just be, just putting the jelly stuff on top of your womb and just scanning you. And in that time, I was like, this just feels weird. Like, I don't like hospitals as it is. I'm just not for it. I don't know why 100%, but I've never really liked being in the hospitals. It just feels a bit hectic in there as well, I think. And there's a lot of fear that's been put onto me from young about hospitals. So when they had to scan me, something in me knew they were going to do an internal scan. And I was like, oh God, really? Like I said, I was celibate at the time, and I was like, that place has not been activated in a long time. And for you to be like, we're going to need to go up there. And it was just a whole trust thing for me. And it made me realise, maybe from my counselling perspective, that, I don't know, it just felt like there's certain things that maybe need to have been said for me to be aware of, like, the process, because it was just like, we're going to do this because we're a nurse and this is what we need to do. And I was just like, okay, not that if I told them that I'd been through sexual abuse it'd make such a change, but it just felt like, okay, I need to now tell myself that something is about to come inside of me, and it might even hurt. So in that moment when they were scanning me, you're not allowed to go to the toilet. There's all these different things that kind of, I think, because it's quite a long time ago, I feel like I wasn't allowed to go to the toilet. But they were pressing so much pressure onto my womb, and my womb didn't like it. And I remember literally my womb getting vexed, and I was just like, listen, I don't like this. This, I just don't like it. And I was like, okay, this is just going to have this moment, and then you're going to find out. And once you find out, you can decide holistically how you deal with it. So when I went through all this scan and everything, it literally was at a point where it had finished, and then they said they had to do it internally. And because I'm not on the contraceptive pill anymore, I hadn't been for years, I don't really take medication, like I haven't done for years. Even with headaches, I literally will like massage my head, I'll have a bath, or I'll go down the holistic road literally, or I'll just ride it out, I breathe. Like, there's so many random things that I would do. So to have that gel stuff that they put to go inside me and all of that, my womb didn't like it. And sorry, I'm going a bit off topic, I just realised as well. But when I was waiting for the results, I was so nervous. And I remember feeling like, oh my God, like all this fear, it's just all this fear. And why is it that there isn't a natural way? There has to be. Like, I don't know, it's my soul just telling me. And then I waited, I think it was like up to 2 weeks or even a month, I can't remember, something like that. And I'd got the results back, and then they were like, oh, you have a cyst on your left ovary. So I was like, okay. And I could actually feel it at the time. It was like a ball, I just kept rubbing it.
Interesting.
And, when you go through something and something so bad happens to the point where it's like, okay, you either go down the knife and have the operation, what they're saying, or I can't remember what it's called now. It's terrible that I don't remember what these things are called. But where they needed to test, but they would have to literally do like a seizure to do that, like a mini seizure. Mm-hmm. And I've never been cut open. I've never been to I don't even like blood tests.
Yeah.
So when I was told, you know, we're going to just cut you, and then I've heard trauma stories from people before, like, oh yeah, let them do that to me, and then they cut my over. I was like, I want children. I'm not about to let you take that risk. So I was just like, right. The anger that was coming up inside of me and the tears and the emotions, I was like, there has to be another way. So when I literally started to research on YouTube, there was like 7 women, I think, at the time that I literally was studying them. And I was like, wow, thank God for you. There was one woman saying that, you know, take away perfume, don't smell bleach, don't have dairy. Like, I literally just learned bits, and my soul was guiding me as well. And when I got the test back to then say they're not sure if I have endometriosis, that the only way they're actually going to know is to cut me. And then when I started asking questions, it was like they couldn't even answer them. So I was like, so what? I don't get it. You haven't got the formula. You're not even sure. You want me to put my health into your hands? This is not making sense.
No.
So my soul is speaking louder than their fear. And something higher, which I felt was the divine God source, you know. And at that time, I was like, I heard this voice, and it was like, go down the road of believing what they're saying when they still don't even know, and it might not even fix the problem, or you have to make a drastic change. And it felt like I was back at uni when I had to be so determined and like go down that tunnel vision. People might have to get locked off, like things might have to get locked off, certain patterns of mine, and you know, just everything that I was dealing with at that time. It just felt like you can't be in a space where it's like you're going to do this half-heartedly. If you're going to do it, you're going to have to cut out, you're going to have to try everything and dedicate your life to this, Siobhan. And it's not just going to be a click of a finger and endometriosis is going to vanish. So yeah, endometriosis for me has been what it means to me, and other women that I have spoken to and some of my clients also, has been a thing where it's hard to put it into what it is, because even scientists are still trying to figure out what it is. And now it's on the news, and you know, there's certain countries that are allowing, I think especially in Italy, just for being on your cycle, they're allowing women to have that time off.
So what are the symptoms of it?
The symptoms of endometriosis, I would say, is severe inflammation. So like for me, if you hold your womb space, you might feel that it's really hot, or on an energy level, you might feel that something's going on. But endometriosis is, I would say, you throw up.
Only on your period or always?
No, it's not. So for me, it wasn't just on my period, and that's what I realised, that something deeper is going on a emotional level, which is something I will get into. So it mainly flares up when you are about to bleed or on your bleed. So basically, with the endometriosis symptoms I had was, if I got stressed, like I said, I'll go into the emotional side in a minute, that would make the endometriosis come more. So I would throw up more, I would be really hot, I would get really cold, I would shiver. Like, the only way I can honestly explain it is like giving birth. I've not given birth yet.
Yeah.
But from women that I've spoken to that have given birth but also have endometriosis, or have sisters or aunties or friends, that you can't move, you can't talk, you can't do anything. And to be honest, I used to take, I think it's Feminex. Is it Feminex? This one that is stronger than paracetamol.
Okay.
Or cocodamol, but cocodamol can make you constipated.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, right, I'm not going to take any medication. I'm going to breathe this out. And it was because at the time I wanted to know, with what I was doing, is it helping? Because with all of these tablets, it can be like a placebo effect. But also with it being a placebo effect, it could also be, for me, how much of it am I healing, and is it working if I'm suppressing it with a tablet? I need to know how far I am on my journey. So if it means I got to feel this pain, I got to feel it to heal it and know what it is. Because we can always do that, you know, go and take a box of this or, you know, whatever it is. But in that time, I was like, I'm not going to do that. So when it would be really bad, I just treated my womb like a baby. I just put my hand there and just took a deep breath and just held her. And hot water bottles was my best friend. Hot water bottles. But yeah, to be honest, with endometriosis, it's not easy to identify because I feel like based on someone's personal trauma, mind, body and spirit wellness also plays a part in it. Your food diet, your surroundings, your boundaries. Like, this is what I teach people with the womb space. You know, it's such a challenging experience. It's so personal that one of the symptoms I can say is like a hormone imbalance. Your hormones are imbalanced, so you might get really emotional more than usual. No one can understand you, so it's very isolating.
And people are also like belittling it a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like,
and
okay,
then,
you're on your period, move on.
Yeah, and then it's like, we'll just take a tablet, and it's like, well, what if you don't want to take a tablet because you're someone that deals with it holistically? That's
just the society right now. Even when you say you're depressed, they just want to give you antidepressants and move you on. Like, no, I haven't, like, there's deep issues I have. Why you just put in, like, a carpet over it?
Yeah.
But, they just want you to be part of the system and work and pay taxes and shut up.
Yeah, well, this is why, for me, being a counsellor for however many years that's been now, like, honestly, in my heart and soul, it's got to a point where that's why Free Thyself started. So
yeah, tell me a little bit more about that.
So Free Thyself basically is the spirit of me, and it actually came when I left my job. So when I was a counsellor and I was working with young people and parents and adults, I was doing that during the time of me studying my counselling, my psychology degree, and when I then graduated, I still was, you know, delivering little sessions for parents to come together with children, so they would have me kind of be the middle person, because I had a lot of students come in and say, my mum's not listening to me, or my mum's the problem, or the mum will say, oh, the daughter's the problem. And I'm like, do you know what? We need to do a mediation, because I can also relate to that. That's a whole other podcast. Yes. With love.
Yes.
But yeah, at that time when I was in the counselling position and I was having that voice to share with CAMS and, you know, the welfare team, the Senko team, the head teachers, the children, all of it, it just made me realise that I can't keep being this voice and my voice is being shut down. It doesn't feel right. Like, I've always been passionate, even when I was teaching, and I used to teach drama or be a teaching assistant, like all of these different roles, even down to me being a cover supervisor, I always felt that the children are dismissed. And I think because when I grew up, I felt dismissed and I wasn't heard, and it was just like, children are meant to be seen and not heard. I really don't like that phrase, because I just feel that it's so important that in this space and time that we're in, that we move more into a space where there's grace for voices. And I had this strong call to leave my job, which to other people was crazy, because I was going to do my psychology doctorate in counselling, and I was going to do my master's, and then something just clicked in me, and I was just like, do you know what, Siobhan, you can't do this anymore. You can't be involved in a system where the women that I was working with, it was quite, I don't want to swear, but it was just...
You can swear.
Okay, it was bitchy.
Yeah.
And I just was like, how can we be in a system where we're meant to have the best interest of heart for the children and the parents, when I definitely have that, but the women I was working with at the time, it just felt like that wasn't the real agenda. You know, it was more about, okay, this child's suicidal, they need to go to this service, they need to go to that service. And it's like, I understand all of these protocols and that we also have to abide by and follow, but some of them hadn't seen their dad in months. I don't personally feel that it means that they had ADHD or they had this and all these abbreviations and rules and regulations of boxes that we put ourselves in to make more sense to what we are. I get it, But honestly, sometimes that person just needs a hug. How would you feel if your dad wasn't around for that long? Through helping all of the women and the parents that I helped from such a young age to now, and I still do that but in a different way, I just feel so free to be able to do it in my way.
Yeah.
Not in a way where it's like, you know, you need to follow these rules and regulations. And there are still things, obviously, that if I go into certain environments that, you know, I have to follow certain protocols. But with saying that, I love the fact that Free Thyself is to encourage others to free themselves.
Okay.
You know, whatever age range you are, that is what it is. And the holistic way, you know, like to really tune into your heart, tune into your soul, tune into your mind and your body, because our body holds trauma. And all of the different layers of what I've learned over the years has come together as a whole package now, where I bring people into group ceremonies, so like womb ceremonies, which I've been doing for the last few years, and it's been really powerful seeing women evolve and taking them deep into a womb journey, where they'll go on a shamanic sound journey with me, and I will drum them into their womb space. Even if you don't have a physical womb, I take women into that space to reclaim their divine feminine energy and release shame and judgment and fear and, you know, anger, whatever needs to come out that is living here, that's dormant in that space. It's so important for me to know that I can also support someone else with what helped me, because how this journey started for me was that I started on the whole route of going down counselling, having counselling to figure out, you know, just life from when I was learning the psychology degree, but then becoming a counsellor and then hearing all these trauma stories that I've heard and being in the classrooms, like all these different avenues of different spaces that I've been in, to like private schools to colleges and just so many different spaces. I realised that from going down the holistic road, it just helped me to know that there's something so much more deeper.
You basically decided to not take the hospital approach.
So yeah, basically when I had spoken to, it was a nurse actually, I remember calling her and asked for my results.
Yes.
And she said to me, you know, you have endometriosis. And then I was like, okay. And I said, so how, like, can you help me? Like, what can be done? And she said, no, there's no cure. And it was so blunt. And I was like, okay. Something in me was just like, what do you mean there's no cure? That just doesn't sound right. Like,
very harsh as well.
Yeah,
I mean, even if it's the truth, it's like, what?
Yeah. And then she was like, yeah, you're infertile. But it was the tone. There was no warmth to the conversation. And then I remember in that moment, because I just turned 30, I'm not 100% with the whole, like, you know, society's projection of, you know, you're 30, you should have kids by now, la la la. I'm not 100% in that world, but there is a part of me that's still like, yeah, you're 30, love, like, if you're saying you're infertile, there isn't even anyone on the scene. You know, like, at that point, I was just like, I just cried. I remember crying, and I was just like, this can't be it. This cannot be it. Like, my own soul is telling me that's not true.
Yes.
But I wasn't trying to listen to the soul, because what was happening was there was so much fear being installed in me. Then the fear of my own mom, the fear of my aunt, the fear of people that love me.
Like when you told them,
I told them, and they're like, no, you just have it, Siobhan, just have it. And I was like, listen to me.
Just have what?
Like, basically just go with the what they're telling me, kind of. Not 100%, but my mum was kind of like, oh, you know, I want grandchildren and all the other things. And then in that point, I was like, hold on, who is this about?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I remember going home saying to my mum, even though I'm crying, just let me have my moment. But this moment lasted a whole week. And it was because I felt like, so how is there no help? Like, how is there no one I can turn to where there's information about it? It just wasn't adding up. Adding up. So I went home and I literally went on YouTube, and I remember there was this Asian lady, and she was so beautiful. I don't think she lives in the country.
Yeah.
And she was literally talking about how, I mean, she went above and beyond. I mean, I tried her thing for a bit, but like I said, it's all divine balance. Like,
Yes.
and she cut out dairy. She was talking about like using natural products, like even down to your armpit.
Yes.
You know, like natural deodorant and natural soaps. And to be honest, I'm kind of in that anyway.
Yes.
But I was even more cautious because of the chemicals that was in it.
Yes.
And that's something that I did learn that I should mention before I forget. Endometriosis, what I've learned, and the stuff I learned from the women online, and also my own self, and the research that I did online that I did find, because it's not easy to find it. They don't want you to find it. That's the truth. Is that endometriosis doesn't like, in my personal perception, and some other women that I've met, it doesn't like estrogen. So I found chicken is pumped with God knows what these days, right? And estrogen is also, I think, in
Soy.
It's in it's soya stuff. So as much as I love having the option of, oh, okay, well, let me have a tofu curry, like instead of having a chicken curry, I will have a tofu green Thai curry. And then I was like, me and my friend were working out at the time, and she was like, you know, you can't have tofu now. But I wasn't a fan of tofu. I was just like, well, at least it's an option. It's still, I was like, what am I going to fill myself up with? You know, there's only so much greens.
And milk, I think, as well, because they pump that in the cows, so they're always pregnant.
I cut it all out. But then I learned oats I couldn't really have.
Oh, why?
I wasn't meant to have oats. I couldn't remember why, but I've literally got a whole list. And I'll be helping women with this, like a whole book of what to eat, what not to eat. But even though that it worked for me, there's other women that I've met and they've said to me, well, no, I can eat oats, or no, you shouldn't have tomatoes, or there's all these different things, whereas I'm just...
Everybody for their own. You
everyone,
have your own journey,
everyone for their own. And for me at the time, it was just like, even though there was Dr. Sebi bits that I looked at, it got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a bit from here, I like a bit of that, I like a bit of that. And I had to go with my intuition, and that's why when I was going to restaurants, people say, okay, what do you eat? And then I started to lose friends. It felt like, or I felt like I was constantly explaining myself, and it was tiring.
Just for the diet part, or in general?
Diet part, yeah. And also the alcohol. So I had to cut alcohol out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not a big drinker, but don't get me wrong, I used to like to, you know, get a bit merry every now and then. And it was more rum. Me and Uncle Ray, you know, every now and then, I like to have a bit of Uncle Ray.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm Caribbean, it's like, it's in my bloodline.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And cutting out alcohol, and for someone that used to drink and, you know, be out there, get merry or switch off, and that used to be what I used to run from before I got deep into this journey. I used to go to the rave and dance and drink. Yeah. You know, not always be drunk, but I had a good time. Yeah. But endometriosis at the time when it came, and they still wasn't sure, I then went back to the doctors because they said, right, because you've now got this, you now need to come to a bigger doctors, and because it is something that we have examined, we need to check if we need to go deeper with a keyhole surgery, so we need to discuss that with you. So they brought me in. And then when I went for the results, for them to discuss my results, they brought me all the way there. I even brought my mum with me. And I remember being so nervous. And then they said to me, we've lost your results. Oh, wow. So I just took a deep breath, and my mouth literally was out. What's now? And you could imagine going through all of this emotion, different emotions. And then I was just like, do you know what? If this ain't a sign, I don't know what is. And I was like, if you think we're going through all that again, we're not doing that. Yeah. And then they said to me, oh, it's going to take this month. And I remember my mum going, no, come on, have the scan. I said to her, listen to me. I have support that I didn't have before. And it's women, and a dear sister of mine who teaches yoga at the time, like she used to hold like kind of women's circles and around yoga, where she would mix and blend it. And we would learn about the moon as well. So it was like, I was learning about how the moon would affect my womb cycle. And if you're like going into the phase of like a new moon, it's like, what do you want to bring into your life that's new? Whereas like right now in this moment, actually, we're in the full moon energy, and the full moon is about letting go. So during that, we would use that energy with the yoga. But when I was experiencing these symptoms, because I had her support, and she was also going through her own health journey and dealing with it holistically, I felt like I had a team of other women, including herself, that were dealing with other things where it was like, no, you should be having this operation, you know, you're crazy, and all these different things. But it was just having that emotional support. So I knew I was no longer crazy, because if there's another person that at the time she was dealing with breast cancer, I was like, wow, it's okay. So we was kind of like pushing each other and motivating each other. And when I decided not to have the keyhole surgery, something inside of me said, you can heal this yourself.
Yes.
So I said, right. At the time, I'm not going to lie, I didn't even really have the money to commit to certain things, or commit, like changing your health diet and going from, like, it's easy to go to Morley's or to McDonald's or, you know, all these fast food places. But when it's like, no, you now need to buy black rice or quinoa.
Yeah.
Do you know quinoa? Or if I'm even saying it right, like, I love quinoa and it's healthy, but
it's expensive.
And I feel like eating vegetables can fill you up, but a lot of people underestimate the power of vegetables, because yam can still fill you up.
Yeah.
And there's certain vegetables that you can eat and shouldn't eat, but it's all these rules and regulations again, because even with holistic wellness and endometriosis, there's been many things I've read up on, and it says don't eat garlic, don't eat this, don't do this. But I went with my intuition. And being around, like I said, my friend at the time that was also teaching me yoga, and we kind of always motivate each other. There was tears involved between even me and her, like, and that helped with the endo journey, because it was like just a safe space to go. That was a yoga studio that was based around healing and the healing of her journey. It helped me to realise when I'd got those results, and knowing that I'm going to go down a journey that is going to upset my loved ones, because even my brother, he was like, Siobhan, just go and have the proper test and have the... I was like, I'm not doing that, because I've watched these women, about 7 of them, like I said, on YouTube, telling me that one woman, her story was she had 7 operations and then the endo came back. So I just said, hold on a minute, I need a moment. This isn't adding up. How can you have that amount of operations and the end? So it has to be something deeper. What is the deeper thing? And then from that is when I started getting more into Reiki, because Reiki's energy healing, and at the time I was being initiated. And when I say initiation, I was going to my Reiki master to be initiated so I could then become a Reiki practitioner. And for you to do that, you have to go through a 21-day cleanse and fast. Which, before I had that, I had a parasite removal. So you can have a physical parasite removal where you go on a diet, say, where you might only eat greens for a whole week, or you might go on a water fast. Like, there's different types of parasite cleanses. But mine was a bit of that, where she would be my coach, and before she attuned me to the Reiki, she suggested that spiritually that I clear my aura, right? So there was things that she would scan. She would do like a energy scan of my body, and she would notice where in my body, like my ovaries had so many emotional blockages. And at this time, I'm not gonna lie, I was just like, this is all new to me. Like, okay, I'm here for it. I don't know what you're talking about, but okay. And to be honest, the more I got into it with her, and she would make me address the sexual trauma, she would make me address, like, actually talk about it in a way that, I didn't really talk about when I was having counselling, I'm not going to lie. And just going through that with her, and then meeting my friend that owns this sacred space in the heart of Stratford. And, you know, her going for her breast cancer journey and doing the yoga with me, like, it was bringing up a lot of emotions for me through the endometriosis. And I realised that it's because I was holding secrets. I wasn't speaking my truth. I was angry, like you said, like, there was so much anger as to why I don't have that support, anger towards my mum, and sometimes how our relationship wasn't necessarily healthy. And then it all clicked when I started literally doing the journey with the coaching of, you know, the parasite removal with my Reiki master teacher. She was telling me that there's a parasite that's living off these things that are coming in your womb, is because of the anger that you're holding, and it's because of this. So when I started to expressing it by writing it down and looking at certain days, so I had to have like a diary of each day of what I'm eating, and each day, what day are you starting to notice you might have a craving for old things that you are now trying to let go of, but it's the parasite. Because even if you it's a physical parasite that's moving around, but on an energy level, it's living off the energy as well. So on the energetic level, it's like, yeah, you might have a little worm moving around inside of you or whatever it is, or however you want to interpret it. But it's an energy, ultimately, that it's living off of your energy. Does that make sense? So it's feeding it.
Yeah, it's all frequency.
Yeah, it's all frequency. So the endometriosis, I then started to learn from my friend who's a yoga teacher at that time, was telling me, Siobhan, stop saying, and also my Reiki master was saying to me, stop saying my endometriosis, say the endometriosis. So I was like, oh. And I realised from that, it just changed the whole energy. It was like, oh, this thing is visiting my body. It doesn't live here.
Yeah.
It was like I was giving it permission by saying my. And because I was around empowering women that taught me holistic things, I started to journal. I started to cry a lot. I started to tune into where in my body is this sexual abuse? You know, how is it affecting me? What the inflammation of endometriosis that grows, and it can grow in any part of your body, is because I wasn't breathing consciously. So the yoga that I was doing, and the goddess pose, and the child pose, and the pigeon pose are the 3 poses that help to alleviate tension in my hips. And it was all family trauma as well. So I was absorbing my mum's stuff, carrying it in my womb, carrying like abandonment issues that I had carried with my dad, like so much. And it was through yoga that I realised the endometriosis was healing because I started to breathe. I never gave myself permission to breathe because I didn't know how.
Can we talk a little bit more about the whole, as women, what we hold in our womb and how that might affect our femininity and our womb health, essentially, yeah.
Over the years, what I've experienced myself and through other women is that we hold a lot of tension in the womb space. We hold a lot of grief, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of fear. And fear for me moves to your ovaries. It moves to the whole part of this space. And fear, from my own journey, has really taught me how we clench our yoni, which is our vagina, right? And it might be that you're sitting somewhere and you don't feel comfortable, and you might not consciously notice it, but you just do this. And if you're doing that down there, she's not breathing. If you think of her as a person, and I'm talking like literally like metaphorically now, but it just feels
like it's always tense.
Yeah, like if like even how I'm sitting right now, I don't really like to sit with my legs crossed. I prefer to sit with them open. And as women, we've been taught to do this, and that's not ladylike, you know,
yes.
Do all of that. But at the same time, it's like if we sit like this, it can be looked at as that's protection.
Yeah.
In a way, it depends how you look at it. But for me and the journey that I've been on with women and helped them, when we sit like this, it allows the energy to flow.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, we're stressed because we might be mothers, we're sisters, or we're aunties. And the fear of maybe showing who you truly are, owning your sexuality, is all part of the sacral chakra area. And when the sacral chakra is blocked, that's the energy point of the womb space, whether you still have a physical womb or not. Even men have a sacral chakra area, even a dog does. So that area is orange. The energy colour of it is orange. And if you are holding secrets and your fear is speaking your truth, so that causes you to tense. And that's what I'm saying about the tenseness. It might not even be that you're tense in there, but your body literally is doing this most of the time. You're not relaxed. So through the yoga and breathing, that's the first time ever in my whole life that yoga saved my life, because I realised how much we're not breathing. And the more I started to breathe in yoga, you can't stay in yoga poses if you don't breathe. And when I was breathing in the yoga, especially doing the pigeon pose, I would love to show you, but
yeah, we can blend it in.
Yeah, we could maybe blend it in. The pigeon pose.
I know, actually, I did it today.
Yeah, oh,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
Where you're literally like, I'm not going to show you, but I kind of show you, it's like your arms there and like your legs crossed like that, and this part stretches out.
Yes, and press
you
it in.
realise how much tension is in your hips.
Yeah, I did hip stretch today, yes.
Yeah, and how much emotions, and then because yoga brings up so much emotions, it all started to link back to where the endo was coming from, which is me not speaking my truth, ashamed of my sexual expression, ashamed of like how I should be, and speaking my truth, and these secrets that I'm holding that are not serving me, because I don't want to expose parts of myself or expose other people it might involve, or, you know, it might not have even been my own secret. At the time, I was holding a lot of family secrets, a lot of sexual abuse that's happened in my family that right now, you know, they're going to hear about it. But at the same time, when you know that you get to a point where you get to know your body, because we can get to know how we look and all of these different things, but women, as women, there's so much pressure on how we're meant to look, what it's like to be a woman, who we should be as a woman. There's so much pressure. The womb doesn't like pressure. I'm on my cycle right now, and honestly, I thank my womb. I thank this higher being that there is, because anger, if it's not felt, you know, we're taught that anger is something that we should dismiss.
Yeah.
You know, no, you shouldn't be angry. That person's upset, you get over it, or go and take yourself over there. But there needs to be spaces where we can create a safe, sacred space where we let the anger out and we let it pass. I'm not encouraging people to go bash people up. That's not what I'm encouraging.
But it's like blocked energy, and
It's
that's
a
what
blocked
initially
energy.
creates disease in our body. That's what we don't realize.
And dis-ease is that you're disconnected from your body, from your cells, to your being, to your soul, to the divine, to your womb space. So right now, I came on yesterday, and the reason why I'm sharing this, there's no way I would sit in front of a camera or talk to you and be like, yeah, I've just come on, because there would be so much shame around that. It'd be like, why are you expressing to the camera that you've just come on yesterday? But the reason why I'm doing it is because when you release shame from your soul, let alone your womb space, it allows your womb space to breathe. It allows you to be who you truly are. And the throat chakra and the sacral chakra area is interlinked. So how my hands are right now, it's like a double-pointed arrow. So if we're not expressing our truth, communicating our needs, owning our sounds, this part is blocked. This part is blocked. Whereas if this is free and that's free, we're just light.
And it can flow.
And we are free
Everything
thyself.
has to flow.
Yeah, and we're free thyself, basically.
Yeah.
So going back to what you're saying about anger and like the fear and the shame that I've been talking about, there's a lot of shame that I've had with myself. There's a lot of shame that I've had with clients that have expressed to me the first time they ever came on, they were shamed upon. You know, go and get a pad, don't show nobody. And in certain cultures, especially in Turkish culture, you know, I'm a quarter Turkish. There's been so much shame around what it is to be a woman, and you know, the men having this hierarchy of how they're more in power.
Yeah.
Or this power phrase of, you know, I'm here and you're there.
I mean, it's a global thing, but in some cultures it is.
Yeah, some cultures it's a bit more. And to be honest, I feel like it's in every culture. It's not just...
Yeah. It's a power game between masculinity and femininity.
Yeah. So also that affects the womb space, because if we're not honouring and reclaiming the divine feminine power that we truly are, which is showing up as our true self, if we... You know, to someone else, being sexy might be putting a short miniskirt and to have some of their, you know, chest hanging out. Whereas to someone else, it might be they're wearing a tracksuit and they still feel sexy. But for me, sexy is an energy. Yeah. So what the womb space is when it's also blocked, if you're not in that space, is that you will be like this a bit. You suppress yourself. So if you suppress yourself, it's me bringing in my poetry a little bit now, you're depressed. You know, like, so when you are suppressing those elements of yourself, your cells feel it. Yeah. And it's like your subconscious mind becomes angry. You know, there's a lot of women that have experienced sexual abuse, for instance. People carry that as shame, right? It lives, so it starts to live, it lives here. And because it's living here, the emotions of that, like I said, might be that you're grieving the person you was before that scenario happened. Yeah. And I've experienced that, of the shame of that experience happening in my 20s and not happening when I was young. And because I held that, I realised that, oh, it's living here. So like I said, through the yoga, through the session with my Reiki master, and then just journaling and noticing more stuff about endometriosis, I was like, yes, I've changed my diet. Yes, I'm doing yoga. But the truth is, I'm not telling the truth. I'm holding all these secrets that's causing inflammation.
You also told me about how you were in a yoga class when your cyst popped.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that a little bit? What happened there exactly, and why do you think it popped? And...
So I was in, you know, it was a space that I just kept going to. I love so much, and you know, Anna was really supportive in terms of when I was in certain positions and I was like, oh, I can't do this. She would just like give me a look, and I just knew in that moment that I need to take a deep breath because she's the one that taught me about the deep breath stuff. And when I started to take them deep breaths, I realized that as much as she's showing me like the different types of yoga, like I did vinyasa and pranayama yoga, I think it's called, and just general yoga and all different yoga, power yoga. Literally, I did all her classes and all of them were powerful. My body started to strengthen, but as it was strengthening, it was releasing. So when it was that midday or morning session, I remember that it was the not child pose, sorry, it was the pigeon pose. And she's like, come on, yeah, we're going to do pigeon pose. But we would stay in these positions. I mean, I can't remember her exact timings, but it felt like sometimes 3 minutes or just a long time, you know, like, and every time she asked me to go into these positions, no matter if it was the morning, the night, or it was like during the yoga sessions with the sister circle, because she'll do a bit of both sometimes, like on a Wednesday, I think it was, she'll do ones where it would be around the moon and the sister circles. But each time we did the sessions, I noticed, depending on what I was feeling or going through or was carrying, each layer of the yoga was bringing me closer to my womb space. It was bringing me closer to releasing and feeling safe. And the more I felt safe with her, because of how much she held that sacred, safe space, and it was also in a sacred area, like, you know, it was in a yoga studio. There was loads of beautiful plants surrounded by us doing yoga. Like, I'd never done anything like that. When I used to go yoga before, I was in Better Gym, and with all the love and all the light, it was just not.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was fast and it was quick. Whereas I think because...
It was just a physical practice.
Yeah, but she would also come around and touch you. So, like, if you're doing yoga, she would, like, push her hand on you, like, maybe to encourage you to release, and then all these different things. So when I was in that class, in that rising, I remember doing the pigeon pose, and I was just like, I felt something go, ow, and I was like, I don't want to say I was embarrassed, maybe that's the wrong word, but I was just like, shit, like, what do I do? Because I don't really want everyone else to know what's going on.
But what?
It was like, I was in that pose, and I remember sitting there and I was looking at her, and I was just like, I don't want to distract her and be like, oh yeah, come on, it's about me right now.
Yeah.
Even though she was very attentive. At that time, I just remember looking at her and she kind of was like, what's going on? And I was just like, I think I whispered to her and I was like, I think the pop, because she knew about my situation. And I was like, I think the sister's popped. And she was like, what?
Was it not really painful?
No. It was like, you know when they say you're about to go for a breakthrough?
Yeah.
It was like something kind of energy level.
Don't you think it's crazy how you were talking about that a lot of your womb health is connected to like not being safe around the women in your family? Or the women not being safe with each other, and then you get there and you're being safe and it popped?
Yeah, so when I met Anna, she held me through my grief. She held me through so much. Like, even right now I could get emotional. I'm not trying to get emotional right now.
Yeah.
But that woman, honestly, I highly recommend her yoga. She also does massages and other things. But honestly, I vouch for the way she held the space. It literally felt like she holds a grandmother energy. And her space was called prana space, that she, like, you know, I'm going to Free Thyself has his prana space. And it was like when you walked in there, that room, you just felt like you was in a cocoon in a mother's womb. I can't explain it to you. So that added to my
There are
experience.
women that hold that energy.
Yeah, and the thing is, if I'm honest, I've had a lot of different issues around women.
Yeah.
And growing up, you know, feeling like I'm the odd one out, left out, all of that stuff, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But from that experience and the way, you know, she's a bit older than me, it just felt that, not that everything is to do with age, but just the energy of her pure heart, her pure love, it was like that added to her medicine, you know?
And with the women groups that you hold, where you basically help women honor their womb health?
Yeah,
or,
so
you
the
know,
first...
So what do you feel like, what wisdom do you draw out of these groups? What do you think a lot of women maybe be struggling with that, you know, that lots of women have in common, and how do you kind of like tackle that in your groups?
So I help women with their womb space, and you can book a session with me by having a yoni steam. So you can, a yoni steam is a seat that you sit on, a wooden seat. I'm very particular about what you sit on, even if you do it at home. I mean, I understand that the wooden seats are not the cheapest thing to buy. Some people make them themselves. But it is an investment, because sitting on plastic, and all the research that I did do, and also for myself when I was healing the endometriosis, is that there's chemicals in plastic.
Yeah.
Whereas if you use a pot, like a stainless steel pot, or, you know, a clay pot that carries heat, is better for your womb space, rather than boiling the herbs and then putting it into plastic and then steaming and all them plastic.
Okay, I used to do
chemicals.
that.
Yeah, so, no, it depends how deep you want to go. Obviously, if it's balance, because you can get the steam seats online, and yeah, the yoni steam sessions with me is an actual ceremony. It's really hard to kind of be like, you're just gonna have a steam, because it involves sound. It involves me encouraging you to activate your voice. I encourage women, if you need to scream, if you need to
it's a whole
sing, it's a whole process.
Yeah.
And I intuitively work with you, where we'll work with different elements of different herbs. Sometimes I intuitively choose the herbs. If you come to me with a specific thing, then it might be, you might say, okay, look, I've got endometriosis, and I'll be like, okay, you know what, say raspberry leaf is really good for that, so let me put more raspberry leaf. Or it might be that you say to me, in fact, I'm trying for a baby right now. And then there's a specific herb that actually works more alongside some of the other herbs.
Yeah.
So that's all incorporated in the session. There's aftercare. And it's in a sacred, safe space. It's a non-judgmental space. You know, you're covered. I don't see you. You just sit over the seat. It's hot steam coming out. You can't have a yoni steam if you are pregnant, bleeding, or have an open wound. And always check if it feels right for you. You know, you can check with your doctors as well. But I always base myself on intuition.
Okay.
So that's one of the sessions that I offer around womb health. You can also have a shamanic clearing, which involves the shamanic sound journey. I use a big shamanic sound drum to drum over you. I sing over you. I sing into your body. It's quite intense. And you can come for a womb retreat, which is one-to-one, or you can have it with someone else. And yeah, where you literally lay down, you might have a bit of Reiki, a little clearing, a little, you know, sacred tea with me, like, which will be my womb tea, the Goddess of Thy Womb tea. And the reason why it's called Goddess of Thy Womb tea is because I want you to feel like a goddess when you drink it, and, you know, own that within yourself, and know that that tea was made from love, and it was intuitively made by me, which helped with the endometriosis. I put the different herbs together that has helped so many women with womb cramps down to womb cancer that I've worked with, just inflammation, pain, cleaning the blood. The other, I don't like to say product, but offering that I have as a package is the Yoni Steam blends, and that involves different herbs that you can buy from me on my website or directly to me. They're also in shops. Like one shop is in After Roots in Hackney, and it's a beautiful holistic shop where they sell crystals and other things. I'm working on getting it out to more platforms. I also make Yoni oil, which involves natural oils, like sometimes olive oil, as the base, or the castor oil or mixture, or a mixture. And it's got different herbs in it. Sometimes I put crystals in it. And yeah, you just rub it over your womb space. And massaging your womb is something that I forgot to mention actually. It's really powerful to move energy out of the womb space. If there's tension or blockages. And the feet actually, before bed. There's a lot that I can give you. Maybe in another part two.
Interesting.
Part two.
What would you say is like the power of women coming together within womb health?
I would say the power of women coming together. So the biggest amount of women that I've held were 50 women this year. It was so powerful at a festival called Heart of the Rose. And there were so many different ages, so many different women, and we all held hands for a part of it, and we all screamed in my session as well, and the whole festival heard us. And I was kind of told, don't scream too much, but it's hard because I know that releases so much.
Like we said, we hold this anger and this energy, it needs to come out.
I literally would love to just get more women together. If I could get 100 women together, just holding hands and breathing, releasing that shame and judgment and criticism that we do towards each other, that's nonsense. We're more powerful together.